What's going on, everyone? Josh Gudwin here. I'm gonna walk you through my new plugin, Magic Flow. I'm pulling up a session from All Day called God Complex, which I've mixed on stream. So those that have watched it are familiar with this song. I'm gonna do the full production version of this one. Since these are my mixed stems, I'm gonna first put this plugin on my master bus and kind of treat it as a mastering plugin to start with. And then I'll break it down and move on to the vocal. Because originally we made this as a vocal plugin, but it turns out that you can use this thing on any sound source. The plugin is not a channel strip, but it is a lot of plugins stacked on another, kind of in the way that I would approach any kind of sound source in my mix sessions. Some of the stuff you could use on everything, some of the stuff you might not want to use on everything, but it's very flexible and you have the choices to do however much or whatever you need to do. So the first thing we'll talk about here is our filter section. And the more I mix, the more I use filters, and the more I find them useful and handy. And our low cuts and our high cuts, 20 to 300 and 7.5 to 20. And these all have like custom curves on there. They're not just generic curves. They're all curves that I've like spent time dialing in and trying to get to the point where I like hearing them sonically, and they do something for me. And so if you don't know, the way to use a filter is you listen and you just start peeling away, and you'll find a point where you go too far and then you just peel back a little bit. That's just the way I use them. So let's see here. Zooming out here, go here to the chorus.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just start with my low cut. I'm gonna peel all the way up and then peel all the way back. And let's just have a listen to see what it does there.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face.
Yeah, so this being on the master bus, I really don't wanna peel out any low end, because I already put all the low end that I want in there. If anything, I might want to add some low end. So I'm going to leave my low cut filter down for this purpose. Let's move to the high cut though.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it.
So a cool approach on the high cut is to listen to the sound source that has the highest frequency content in your mix. In this case, it's the hi-hats, it's Greg's vocal. Let me listen one more time just to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it.
Yeah, and it's that distorted hat that's like... So a good rule of thumb here is to start peeling away until you lose your high-end information and start peeling back to where you're not missing it anymore. And there should be a gap in between the very high frequencies and to where it's sitting, which is usually okay to do.
I've been sober.
So I'm gonna set this real quick.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face.
I'll leave it there for now. That's sitting at like, what, 17.2-ish. But again, I put all the high end that I want into this mix, and sometimes put a little bit too much. And you know, when you give this off to mastering engineers, they're able to pull it back a little bit. But since I'm mastering this stem session here, I'll treat it as such. The next thing we got in here is our peak leveler. And this is based on an optical compressor with some EQ before and after. And it's a very smooth compressor, and it's made to just level out your information. It's not an aggressive compressor. It's not for effect. It's literally to do what it's supposed to do, and that's to level out information. So let's take a listen and see where we get with it. Another thing is, since this is mixed stems and everything has been printed with a lot of compression, I might not want to go as heavy as I normally would on a sound source that's not overly compressed. But we'll be able to catch a vibe off this.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
So even a little bit of peak reduction on here. I think I'm gonna cut my avocet. I'm gonna cut my avocet again. And it's really showing an average peak of maybe a 1/4 decibel of gain reduction. But even a 1/4 decibel of gain reduction brings up everything a tiny little bit, which is something that I enjoy doing with compression. I just like opening things up a little bit, and a little bit until they're open properly for me. So let's have a listen again.
Don't even know God. We all got a God complex.
I personally like everything that it's doing right now, and I'd leave it. If I gotta change it later, I will. We're just going down the line here, moving towards our dynamic EQ section. And this is based on multi-band presets that I like using on all of my mixes. I have a lot of different presets that I save, and sometimes I just switch until I like it. So the theory behind the way I incorporated this section here is I have 4 modes, and I like to turn it up and listen to each mode, hear what it's doing, and I just break it down multiple choice. I'm already gonna like 1 or 2 modes over the other 2, and so those are the 2 modes that I would stick with to dial in. The other 2 modes I would just not use for this example here. So let's listen to see what they do.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
Okay, my ear automatically is drawn to D. And D is a preset that is not taking out much low end, and not taking out things that I wouldn't necessarily want to take out on a master or mix stems. And so D to me is the one that complements this production and this mix the best.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it.
And this actually like brings out everything a little bit more too, and lifts things up a little bit in the proper way that I like. So I'm gonna rock with D. Filters, peak leveling, dynamic EQ. All right, so the next section we got here is our dynamic resonance controller, and this is a little cool tool that, you know, you listen to your mix, you listen to the vocal, whatever sound source you have this plugin on, just listen, and listen for things you like, listen for things you don't like. With this example, we're gonna listen to things we don't like in the mix. And no mix is perfect, no production is perfect. I mean, there might be a couple perfect mixes, but for the most part, no mix is perfect. And there's always things to change, and luckily we have mastering engineers that get to listen with a fresh perspective and assist us mixers in helping us fix the things that we forgot to fix or that we didn't know to fix.
I've been sober, it's like 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. And I got so high you couldn't.
And I find myself always trying to take a little more high end out as the mix goes on, because everything gets open and brighter and bigger. But also when things get bigger and brighter, things get a little more harsh towards the end sometimes. So I'm just gonna really tame this high frequency. You can hear it with the listen circuit, this little high frequency section here.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day.
I already like it. Let's keep listening. There's 4 different sections here. This bottom section is basically a de-esser where it's gonna bring down a lot. This is more of a fine-tune area that's controlled. So let's listen again.
It's like a whole new world, yeah. And I got
maybe like the very bottom of Greg's vocal, between like 109 and 200-ish. You gotta be careful and not take too much off of it because you're dealing with the mix here, right? So if you're peeling out too much 100 or 200 or 300 hertz in your mix, it could be doing bad things. It could also be doing the right thing. So all I'm saying is just make sure you're taking out the right frequencies. But that also comes with experience and ear.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it.
So just ripping through 5 sections on this this box already, the mix to me sounds better, more dialed in, and more finished.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it.
And I'm digging it. I'm not even gonna access or utilize the bottom 2 sections on this DRC section. They're here if we need it later on. And sometimes you do come back and need to fix things down the line. So let's move on to our dynamics balance. And we have 2 modes here, A and B. A has a lower ratio, B has a higher ratio. And so it's just one of those things where you turn it up and you listen and see which one you like better, and then turn it down a little bit.
I've been sober, it's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
So even real light, saying like our average peak here is like a half decibel. You can even go less. And once the plugin's fully dialed in, and we're like pulling back some of these processing points, it could work really well. So let's stick with like a half decibel of reduction on these peaks here.
I've been sober.
Okay, cool. Next section is our EQ. And this is based off of the Elijah, the Muse EQ, however you pronounce it, I'm not fully sure. And I have 4 EQ points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the gain. So the way I like to do it is I like to turn it up all the way. And right now it's a little more than 2 dB.
Like a whole new world, yeah.
And just listen.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
So 1 and 4 to me complements the production, the mix better. So I'm gonna listen to 1 and 4, figure out which one I like the best, and then turn it down to where I could only hear it a little bit.
Like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
Okay, so I'm gonna rock with 1 on this one. I almost went with 4, but I don't know, 1 sounds a little...
Like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last.
1 does something a little more for me to the vocal. We're gonna stick with that for a minute. Once I mess with this mid bump in our preamp to see if we're gonna go there, I might have to switch it, but for now, we're gonna rock with this.
Like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Trying to go to hell.
And then over here, we got the preamp, which is kind of a saturator, a little bit of compression, very, very minor EQ. And sometimes when your mix is very close and you're done, you don't want to add extra compression at the end. So I'm saying that only for the reason being that you might not want more compression on the box. And so let's listen. If the compression doesn't bother and it complements the mix, I would say keep it on. If you do hear audible compression, maybe take it off. But let's listen.
Make a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
Okay, I like it. Let's keep the preamp in here and move on to our mid bump. And the mid bump is one of those things where, you know, you do a lot of mixing, you get a lot of revisions. Some of the revisions are subtle, some are a lot, but a common revision is a little more in your face, a little more mid-range, and a little more forward. So this mid bump is essentially a mix revision that if you're hearing that, or you need that, or you want that kind of thing, you just engage the mid bump and have a listen. So let's see what it does.
Make a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it.
See, I like the mid bump. Like, it's just, it lifts everything up in a nice way for me. I'm gonna turn it up and listen again.
Make a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face.
That would be my approach to use this as a mastering box. To me, it does a lot. It brings a lot of characteristics out in the mix that I like, and I'm gonna keep the setting. So we're gonna move on to a vocal sound source with the Magic Flow, and I want to give a shout out to Studio DMI and Acustica for working this plugin out with me. Francesco, I've been back and forth with Francesco for a long time, trying to fine tune little things to make sure that like it's hitting a standard that I think is good enough to put out there. And I think we achieved it. So quick shout out to those guys, and you know, it was a good team right there. Okay, before we move on to the vocal, I'm gonna take Magic Flow off the mix and copy it up to the vocal track. And go to a basically zeroed out version of here. Let me redo this, okay. And I'm gonna try to beat the processing on the vocal and try to make it sit better in the mix. So let's have a listen.
7 days I've been sober. It's like a whole new world, yeah. She fell in love with the mess I created. I could flood the world with the tears that she gave me. Then I got so high that it made me lose my faith. What the fuck would you do in my shoes? Wouldn't last one day on my place. Don't you know I got a God come? Make a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake.
I'm gonna say this just to get it out there. Brightness in vocals is not going down for the most part, and you know, a lot about mixing what we do is trying to tame those frequencies. So I kept a lot of the high end on the vocal, but after hearing it, you know, months later, I'm gonna try to peel back some of that high end and see if I can't make that sit better in the mix, and allocate that high end to the more rhythmic assets that we have in this session here.
Make a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
Yeah, and you know, with this dynamic resonance controller section, you can really solo out and hear what you're doing in the mix and what should come out, what, you know, what doesn't need to come out. So I'm gonna peel back a little bit of this high end.
Oh, no, well, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights, I was fake. Tryna go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
Another thing, on a vocal that's already compressed, sometimes it's okay to compress more, other times it's not, but you really want to hear the difference between the two. Sometimes compression can break out a lot of the sibilants, which you can see here, and some of the attacks on these vocals, which you could see here. So as long as it's not bringing more of that out, it's not usually a problem. And we've already gone in here and tamed a lot of this stuff. So I'm thinking that it's gonna be all right, but let's just check it.
Then I got so high that it made me lose my faith. What the fuck would you do in my shoes? Wouldn't last one day on my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
And Greg already sounds so dope on this too. It's like I'm just fine tuning things here that I've already tuned. Not like really tuned, but like dialed in is what I'm saying. Let's move on to dynamic EQ. So multiband, we know some people love it. We know some people hate it. I personally love it when it's done right. And with already a compressed vocal and EQ vocal, a little bit of multiband could help it out too. So let's check it out.
What the fuck would you do in my shoes? Wouldn't last one day on my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God. Don't even know God. Don't even know. Don't even know God. Don't even know God. Don't even know God. Don't even know God. I could flood the well with the tears that she gave me. Then I got so high that it made me lose my faith. What the fuck would you do in my shoes? Wouldn't last one day on my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
I already like what it's doing here. By doing so, it's also bringing a little bit more high end that I don't want. So I'm gonna go back to my dynamic resonant control and just dial this in a little bit. Let's just have a listen.
My faith. Fuck on my shoes wouldn't last one day on my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God.
A lot of nice vocal stuff in here too. That's just like sits real low in this track. Tasty things like that. Shout out all day.
Don't even know God. We all got a God complex. 7 days I've been sober. It's like a whole new world, yeah. 40 days, 40 nights I was fake.
I'm just doing a lot of listening here. I'm very attached to the original vocal, but you kind of got to take yourself back from the attachment when you're a professional and really figure out like what it needs and what it doesn't need. So I'm just listening as, I'm basically like listening as someone that's judging everything and trying to fix it or, you know, solidify it. And if you see me just playing back a lot, I'm doing that to listen.
40 days, 40 nights I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it.
So just listening to this section of the vocal, without this plugin, I hear
40 days, 40 nights I was fake. Trying to go to hell.
It kind of sounds more filtered in a way and less EQ'd. And just putting this on gives me that nice roundness that I like.
40 days, 40 nights I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it.
It kind of cleans that vocal up for me. Moving on to the dynamic balance section, I'm gonna just see what it sounds like with the compressor on top of all that stuff. I'm not sure I want it on there, but again, we don't know until we try it. So let's give it a whirl.
40 days, 40 nights I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex?
I'm just gonna keep it low.
40 days, 40 nights I was fake. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my.
We already talked about the EQ. I like turning it up and listening to my options here, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see the curves on the display. But in this case, I'm gonna go with the 3 setting and just ever so slightly.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face.
I like that. And the last 2 things, I'm gonna listen to the preamp, listen to the mid bump, see if we need it, and make some final adjustments on the plugin.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I got a God complex? Don't even know God. We all got a God complex. Don't even know God.
So I'm not gonna use the preamp on the vocal. I'm not gonna use the mid bump on the vocal. I did use both on the master fader, or the master bus. In this case, I don't think I need it. Let's check what Superb
40
does.
days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was you doing? My shows wouldn't last one day in my place. Don't you know I...
It kind of opens up the fidelity on the high end. And again, that's something that you might not want or you might not need, so don't just throw on Superb just because you think it's gonna make it better. Because when you bring fidelity into high end, sometimes it might bring it out too much. So just keep in mind that instead of setting things, just like listen to why you're setting it and try to set it for the right reasons. Let me go ahead and save this as my Z setting for all day vocal 1, because the more stuff I'm gonna mix with Greg, the more different presets I'm gonna save, because some songs work better with different presets and some songs don't. So, you know, when I'm 8 songs in on an album or whatever, you know, I have all these presets dialed in to the point where I could switch and move things around quickly to where it best suits that part. Save. Okay, so now we got the vocal dialed in with the Magic Flow. Let's move back to the master bus and see if we still like it, or see if we hate it, or see if it's working or if it's not working. You know, these are all things that you gotta make real-time decisions on.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck?
So just off that listen right there, it's just like getting something back mastered, not mastered, getting something back mixed, not mixed. I personally like the way it's working this mix.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it.
Kind of goes from sounding like...
I got so high you couldn't recognize my face. What the fuck was...
Kind of goes from sounding low fidelity to high fidelity, even though it's my mix and I'm saying that. I think it's working very well and I'm gonna keep it. Let's check this quality real quick.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost made it. And I got so high you couldn't recognize my face.
Yeah, we'll go with Superb on this too. You could hear that. You could definitely hear the difference in the high end when you go up. And again, like that might not be something that you want to do, but it's something that you should check and make sure that you know you're doing the right thing here.
40 days, 40 nights, I was fade. Trying to go to hell and I almost...
All right, so we went over master bus applications. We went over lead vocal approach. You know, we can go over other things, but you kind of get the idea of how to dial this thing in. I just go section by section. If it needs filters, I filter. If it needs a little bit of peak level, I peak level. If we need dynamic EQ, throw it on there. If you need to take out frequencies you don't like, use that dynamic resonance controller. If you need a little finishing compressor for some dynamics balance, you got it right here. And then the EQ at the end is overall lift. So that's here, and that's the Magic Flow. Hope you enjoy.